Hello, I'm Dr. Patrice Berry. I am a licensed psychologist, and I'm excited to talk about the movie Tangled. And I recently saw the movie Encanto. I'm probably saying that a little wrong, but I recently saw that movie and it was so good. And it really relates a lot to family dynamics. And there will be some spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movies, go and check them out and then come back and watch this here. But within the movie Tangled, untangling yourself from toxic relationships. Within that movie, the main character, she ends up being kidnapped. And really, the whole reason she was taken was because what she could offer Mother Gothel. And it was only what she could give. There really wasn't true love there, and that was interesting to see that dynamic. Even though Mother Gothel said that she loved her, really it was about wanting the power that was in her hair, and realizing that she could sing that special song and then be able to stay young, that was the only reason why she ended up taking the child, because she tried to cut her hair and just have the hair and that didn't work for her. And that really sowed some seeds of this longing for belonging, wanting the sense of security. And there really was that family dynamic was a good example of a trauma bond where without without her even knowing it, the relationship that she had with this mother figure was solely based on what she could give. And if she could no longer give it, she was no longer of use to her. And how she was keeping her and telling her all these lies. You see lots of examples of gaslighting, telling her that it's really the world that's out to get her, and that there are all these other people and how unsafe things are, when really Mother Gothel was the real villain and she was really the one that was the unsafe one. And so being able to see that, and for this to be a children's movie, so Disney does such a good job. So some of my other favorite movies, and if you want for me to take a look and review any movies, you can make sure to put them down in the chat. I don't do scary movies, but I love Disney movies. And with the movie Up, that in that movie it really does a great job covering grief and loss. And then within Tangled, you do get to see how this narcissistic abuse, how that can kind of play out within a relationship. And when she ends up meeting um, the guy that will end up coming along. Let me see if I wrote down his name. But when he ends up coming along, he kind of has this, to me, he had some narcissistically defended traits where he was very much about his appearance. He was all about bragging about how great he was. But under that, there were a lot of insecurities. And because sometimes if we don't heal certain parts of ourselves, we can accidentally end up in very similar situations, especially if we have this misguided view of what love is. Flynn, thank you. Yes, Flynn. Within there, he was the one that was that ended up coming and that ended up showing her around, and once again was kind of using her to get to the crown. He Because she hid the crown, and it was really cool when she put the crown on, that she got to see a glimpse of who she really was. But within some other lessons that I saw within there was to not take responsibility for the other person's behavior. She felt as though she had done something wrong in leaving, and without really knowing that she was a prisoner. She had been kidnapped, and this was not a safe relationship. It was not a safe situation for her, and how that can bring up a lot of feelings of fear, guilt, and shame, especially when you start to untangle yourself from a problematic family environment, which is why I want to talk about. in Encanto a little bit later because I saw a lot of family roles. And I keep asking people over on TikTok to put which family member they thought was in a certain role. And I think people probably didn't want to get it wrong. But within there, so we will get to that in just a moment. But when you grow up in a situation like Rapunzel, you can end up having this low self-esteem. And when she first left the castle, she didn't know what to trust and what not to trust, and really struggled with trusting herself, trusting others. And yet she did kind of see the good in people, which was really sweet. Yes, Tangled. Yes, she's getting untangled. Exactly. So I love streaming on YouTube and on TikTok at the same time. The deconstructing therapist. Yes, because Flynn, his real name was Eugene, but yes, but within there, it was really interesting to see her do this walk, and you see this journey of the closer she gets to the truth, things did get dangerous with Mother Gothel because Mother Gothel wanted to keep her to herself and wanted to cut her off from other people. And those are some signs like, hey, maybe this relationship isn't healthy. If I can't reach out for help and support, if I can't talk to other people, why is this person trying to control where I go, who I talk to? And within a family system, sometimes there can be oh, don't talk about what happens at home. And I mean, that's why one of the best advice when I was studying to be a therapist, we were able to talk to someone that had endured a lot as a child. And the recommendation that they gave us to tell other people was if something's ever not okay, don't just tell one person. Tell everybody. I worked with a lot of people that the first person they went to, they weren't able to get to safety. They weren't able to get support that they needed. And so um, when you do leave, when you do start to untangle yourself from toxic family patterns, you will encounter some conflict. You will encounter some trouble. Like things, yeah, they're not gonna be magic, it's not gonna go smooth, and that's when people can start to regret leaving in the first place and wanting to go back to that other situation, and that's where I think we have to be more upfront about what healing looks like. So, I ended up duetting or using the sound. I duetted a video just this past week where someone was talking about healing isn't slaying these monstrous dragons or demons. It's not slaying these big things all the time. It's often doing the little things every day. It's confronting that thought, questioning that story that I'm telling myself. It's doing all of those little things, building yourself up every day. And that's why I really like DBT skills, because it's something that's meant to be practiced, and I use mindfulness a lot. Being able to be in this moment and trying to not think too far, like trying to enjoy, okay, right now, this is where I am. This is what's happening and I am safe in this moment, because when you've been through things, it can be difficult to enjoy peace sometimes. For some people it can be difficult to enjoy safety, because you might be used to something that's unsafe, and we have to work on, you know what, like I really do like peace. And I've had to be careful on TikTok because there are a lot of, because there can be drama, so there can be just drama between different groups, and those things are intriguing because I'm like, oh my gosh, what happened? I'm trying to figure it out. But then I realized that now my heart's beating faster, and now looking at those things can have a physical impact on you. And so noticing, how does your environment affect you? And there are people that have been through negative things, especially early in childhood, that in the midst of chaos, they might be a little comfortable with it. And I say that in a way to explain, not to judge. because that comfort with chaos, it's okay, the brain is used to this level of dysfunction, but then when things are peaceful and calm and quiet, that might be when a person might struggle a little bit more. And so taking those little moments, those little times, day by day, minute by minute, to be able to increase tolerance for peace. You wouldn't, but and that's a real thing. For some people, they have to increase their tolerance to handle the good stuff. We can get used to the bad, and we often have to look for the good. And so going into 2022, today is January 7th, and I am setting my intention every day to look for the good. I have a 4-year old, and at the end of every night, I ask him, "What are you thankful for? What are you grateful for?" We are starting this practice, and it's a daily thing. And before we, do our bedtime routine, intentionally having him focus on what went well. As he gets older, probably about 5 years old, when he goes off to school, or we pulled him out of daycare for the month of January. When I pick him up from daycare, it's normally, what was good today and what was not so good. Just giving that space that things aren't always going to be good. That this is a safe space. You can always come to us if something isn't okay. And so as you leave and you start to untangle yourself, you kind of have to find, and often it's a dream. So it's a goal, something else will kind of push you. And maybe it's okay, I want my family to have a healthier dynamic, or this is the goal that I'm shooting for, that I'm aiming for. uh, Try to not forget that goal. Write it down. Lots of people are doing vision boards. I've seen a lot of that on social media, and I think having something that you can look forward to, that you can look towards, that can sometimes help refocus when you might get the thought of, let's just go back to what was easier. Because in some ways, a dysfunctional system, especially if I'm used to it, it might be easier than the healing journey, but I promise that it's worth it. Doing the work is worth it in the long run because it helps reduce some of the pain. It helps reduce some of the stress, and getting okay with disappointing people. That's a big one. Being okay with disappointing people, because within healthy relationships, I don't expect to always hear yes. Within a healthy relationship, if I ask a friend, "Hey, are you available?" And they're like, "Oh, no, I'm not." It's like, okay, like I wouldn't, within healthy relationships, if I ask someone something, if I make a request, logically, an available answer is no. Within unsafe situations, people get upset when they hear no. And that is a problem. That is a really, really big problem. And even with my child, um, it was so funny. I was sitting down and I was like, "Hey, can you pass mommy this?" And he was like, "Nope." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, it's not your job to get that for mommy, okay?" And so I think as a parent, now if he's playing in the street and I'm like, come out, that's unsafe. It's different if it's about safety. But I think within healthy relationships, you can set boundaries, you can set limits, including emotional boundaries. And there's a video series that I did on emotional boundaries. And also, as we get into family dynamics and the roles that people can play within families, I did a series, and I put it all on YouTube. So I put all the videos from the family series over on YouTube, and put them all in one 10-minute video. But with and sometimes as you start to untangle yourself from a toxic system, you can start to have some repressed memories, some things. So in the movie Tangled, Rapunzel starts to remember when she was little. and she remembered her family and started to connect some of the dots. And as those things happen, sometimes that can bring on more emotional pain, because within the healing process, that hurts. She has to grieve the years lost with that she could have had with her birth family. And so I think I like to prepare people for that because they often think, "Oh, a person this should be comforting," and there might be an aspect of it that's extremely painful. And so, when I was watching the movie and taking notes, to hear Mother Gothel said, "Everything I did was to protect you," ah, like that was just when really Rapunzel should have been hiding from her, and that really that was the difficult system. And then I wanted to end this part of the segment with narcissism is a spectrum. And on social media, you hear a lot of different people talking about narcissism. And just because somebody is being a jerk, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're a narcissist, or just because somebody, I don't know, like it's a spectrum. And I really like on TikTok, Dr. Joe Court talks about being narcissistically defended. So there are some people that have some insight into their behavior and they're able, but they realize, wait a minute, I think I have some signs and traits of narcissism. I kind of saw a parent or a family member do this, and I think I picked some of this up, and they're able to go to therapy and work through some of those things. But all right, let me see if I missed any comments. Hello, thank you all for joining the live. I am streaming live on YouTube, and we are going to switch over to talk about what roles, if you have seen the movie in Encanto, which role do you think each family member played? When I went and watched it again, I kind of had some different thoughts after my first time watching the movie. So once again, I have a 4-year-old, and the first time I watched it, I missed some things. And so when I went back and watched it again, one of the first thing I saw was just, generational trauma. This movie, wow, just the pain of losing the house and losing the home, losing a country, having to migrate to another area, that Abuela just and she covered her pain, and she tried to make the family perfect. And in that trying to have the perfect family, that ended up causing all this pain, and everybody just wanted to make her happy. And until she acknowledged her pain, I don't think, and until she saw how what she was doing was impacting other people, I don't think that she could have truly had that true happiness. And that it was all about each family member, they kind of lost their identity in the midst of their gift. That their gift, it was really about their gift and what they could do for the family, what they could do for the community, but it wasn't about them as a person. And so within that family system, I saw Abuela as being the person that had significant grief, significant trauma, and was really struggling emotionally, but had covered it up and was trying to have this perfect family. So the first time I watched it, I thought Louisa was the hero. But when I watched it again, and we can talk about this, I think is Isabella was actually the hero golden child. She was the one that could make flowers. And so she was the one that had all of these expectations, and everybody was really proud of her. And really, Louisa was kind of more of the enabler and caretaker, and really needed to set some boundaries with people. And her song, Surface Pressure, I could play that song over and over again. Surface pressure, and just the pressure that she was under, feeling like she was just going to bust and that it was too much. But her taking on all the weight and all the burden of the whole town, not even just her family, just how she just wanted to rest sometimes, and how it kept her from experiencing joy. It kept her from being able to experience happiness, and that really she needed to set some boundaries. Isabella had to come out and say, this is what I really want, and this isn't what I want. And things don't always have to be beautiful, that I can make things that aren't perfect. And then I do think that Bruno was probably a bit of a mascot. He's so funny, but then he's also the scapegoat. And then that Maribel is not only the scapegoat, I think the lack of a power made her a lost child too. I think it made her kind of question her role within the family and where did she fit. And then I think Camillo was also the one that could change. So Camillo, almost like chameleon, that he was also kind of a bit of a mascot role, constantly just trying to take tension off of things. Very, very funny. And then Dolores. Dolores was another one of those lost child roles. And so if you agree, if you disagree, let me know down in the comments. I Isabella is the oldest, so for sure. Yes, I think she was the hero. Let me know what you thought. I absolutely love that movie. I am going to end out the stream here. Thank you all so much for joining here on YouTube. I am going to continue over on TikTok, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. All right.